We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast, where today on the show, I'm going to preview Georgia football's G-Day spring scrimmage by giving you a player to watch at every single position on the roster. But first, go ahead, guys, if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel, like, comment. That's a huge help, guys, as we continue to grow this channel. Thank you in advance for that. And while you're at it, check out the Glory UGA podcast for full episodes of our show, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. You're going to find a whole lot more content designed for you guys, the most diehard Georgia fans out there on planet Earth. But all right, guys, we've got a lot to cover. If we're going to go position by position and give you a player to watch, at least a player to watch at every position, we don't have any more time to waste. Let's dive right in. We're going to start on the offensive side of the football. We'll go position by position, and then we'll flip things over to the defense. But we've got to start with what I believe is the most important position on any football team, and the Georgia football team is no exception. And that, of course, has to be the quarterback position. There's really two names to watch here. You've got Gunnar Stockton, you've got Ryan Puglisi, right? The guy that I'm watching, of those two, the one that I'm going to be watching most closely, I want to see both of them, obviously. But I'm more interested right now in where Gunnar Stockton is. If you have followed this podcast for a while, I think I've made it pretty clear my stance on Gunnar Stockton in general, where he is right now. It's evolved over time, certainly, and also Ryan Puglisi and his ability to push Gunnar potentially. Puglisi is a talented guy. There's no doubt. And I am very excited to see where Puglisi is right now as a redshirt freshman. But you got to remember, this is really his first spring of actually practicing. He was banged up most of last spring as an early enrollee. So I don't expect Puglisi right now to show me that he is ready to take this job. What I do expect to see is some flashes, because the guy is obscenely talented. I love the physical tools that he has, but he's learning right now. I'm far more interested right now in Gunnar Stockton, because I am of the opinion, and things can change, but based off what I've seen so far this spring and what I continue to hear this spring, this is Gunnar Stockton's team. This is his job right now, and this is his team. And I need to see from Gunnar, are you the type of quarterback that Georgia can win a national championship with? You guys know my history with Gunnar Stockton going back to like this time last year. I have been skeptical at times. I've had my doubts. I've voiced those doubts quite a few times and got some pushback from that. But I'm also an open-minded kind of guy. Let's try to be. And I have been open-minded to Gunnar Stockton evolving and improving. And I think that he has. I was very encouraged by what I saw from him when he got an opportunity to play late last year in the SEC Championship game in the Sugar Bowl. Going back to last fall, when I had a chance to take him to practice, I came away from that very concerned, and I told you guys that here on this very show. But I have seen some things that have encouraged me, that give me more reason to believe in Gunnar Stockton as the type of guy that Georgia can win with. Going back to the end of last year, going back to what I saw earlier this spring at the coaches clinic, and again, what I continue to hear about where Gunnar Stockton is in his development. But the one big question I still have with Gunnar Stockton is, what is the ceiling? What is your ceiling? And by extension, what is the ceiling of this Georgia team with you running the show from the most important position on the team? I very much believe that Gunnar Stockton has a high floor. I've seen enough from Gunnar to believe that he's not going to be a dud. Gunnar, at the very least, is going to be a good quarterback for Georgia. But can Gunnar be the kind of guy that can put a team on his back and lead us to a national championship? That's still what I have a question about. I'm not saying that he can't be. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm very hopeful that he can be. Again, I'm very encouraged by what I've seen over the past 3 or 4 months that he can be that guy, but I need to continue to see that, right? And I know this is not a real game. I understand that. It's a scrimmage. It's controlled. Sure, all of that's very true. We're not going to show everything, because we're not even putting this on TV because we don't want teams to A, rate our roster, and B, probably scout us and see what we've got. So any scrimmage, you're not going to put like a public scrimmage, even a semi-public scrimmage like this, you're not going to put the full offense, full defense out there on display for everyone to see. I get that, guys, but it's still the closest that we're going to have to a game setting between the end of the season, the Sugar Bowl, and week 1 at the end of August, okay? So I am very interested in seeing where is Gunnar Stockton right now. Seeing him at a practice during the coach's clinic, that's one thing. And I was very encouraged. I think he's cleaned up a lot of the questions I had. The release was something that I was concerned about last year. It was way too long, but he's cleaned that up. I think a lot of you, I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now since I saw that earlier in spring, but some people still aren't buying that. That's fine. I think you're going to have a chance to see that if you're out there at G-Day, but he's cleaned it up. You're going to see it. It's much tighter. It's much more compact. It's a much quicker release. The awareness in the pocket is something I still want to see him improve on. It looked better at practice, but a game setting, a scrimmage setting is a very different situation. Now, this is controlled. He's not going to be taking live hits, obviously, so it's not the exact same. But when you feel pressure bearing down on you from the backside, can you sense that? Can you pick that up? And can you get rid of the ball? Can you hit your hot route? Can you escape the pocket? Can you create on the run? Those kind of things. Those are things I want to see Gunnar continue to take strides on, because the guy's got the leadership abilities. He's got the intangibles. He throws a gorgeous deep ball. He throws a much better deep ball than Carson Beck ever threw. He's been in the system for 4 years. He can read defenses, go through progressions, all that. But the ceiling, again, that's what I'm concerned about. And we're not going to get a full answer here. We're not really going to get a full answer at any of these positions. That's the nature of a spring game. But can I continue to see more encouraging signs for Gunnar Stockton to give me more reason to believe that Gunnar Stockton is going to be the type of quarterback that Georgia can win a national championship with? So definitely watching that for Gunnar. Watching Ryan Puglisi as well. He's a really talented guy. I think he's got a shot to be the quarterback in the future. Obviously, if we land Jared Curtis, he'll have something to say about that. But Puglisi is not going to go down without a fight. He's a very, very talented guy in his own right. Running back. There's a number of names here to watch. But if I have to boil it down to one guy, I've got to go with freshman Bo Walker. I did a video on Bo Walker, I think the first week of spring, because the very first week of spring when I was trying to get some information coming out of practice, the name I kept hearing over and over again, the buzzy name, was Bo Walker. And that buzz, guys, I'm just going to be real with you, it hasn't died down. It hasn't died down at all. If anything, in fact, it's continued to pick up and gain steam. So, again, saw him a couple weeks ago at the coach's clinic. Now I want to get my eyes on him in the scrimmage setting and see where he is in this type of setting, the closest thing we're going to have to a game prior to the week 1 game against Marshall. But this guy, I mean, if you haven't seen this guy in action, if you haven't seen his high school tape, you're going to love watching this guy. He's a sawed-off kind of guy, like 5'8", 5'9"-ish, but he's powerful, man. He's powerfully built, about 210 in that 5'8", 5'9" frame. Runs with great power, runs with a good center of gravity, is exceptionally quick in a short area. Not the fastest guy in a straight line, like not the biggest burner out there, but plenty fast enough. But he has great contact balance, all those things that I like to see in running backs. He might not be the fastest guy, but he has this really strong burst, acceleration, the ability to see a hole and get through the hole, which to me is more important than like long-term home run type speed, which he might not have that in spades, but he's got good enough speed. But I think you guys are going to be very pleasantly surprised by Bo Walker. And honestly, at this point, is it even a surprise? Because this guy has been a name that we've heard, again, going back to week 1 of spring practice. Of course, I want to see Nate Frazier. But I know what Nate Frazier is. I have a full season of that. I know what this guy is. I'm excited to see him in that RB1 role as like the alpha running back. I'm certainly excited to see that. I would like to see Dwight Phillips and see is he kind of developed more in terms of his size and strength to be a guy that can not just be used like a gadget role, but also run between the tackles. So I'm excited to see that as well. But Bo Walker's got to be the name. If you're looking for one guy to watch the running back position, it's got to be freshman Bo Walker. The comparison I gave to people is, in terms of Georgia guys, the closest I can think of is Elijah Holyfield. Shorter guy, but powerfully, stoutly built. It runs with power, good short area quickness, not the fastest guy in a straight line. So that's the Georgia comparison I can come up with. The name you often hear compared to, though, is Maurice Jones-Drew. And I get it. Like a smaller bowling ball type guy, not the fastest guy in a straight line, but insane short area quickness, all that. Like that comp, that checks out too. But yeah, I think you guys are going to love Bo Walker. I wish this game was on TV so that people that are not able to make it out to Sanford Stadium can get a look at this guy before we get to late August. Receiver, man, this was hard. The receiver was tough for me to pick one guy because there's a number of guys that I'm very excited about at this position. In fact, earlier this week, I just did a video on a redshirt freshman preferred walk-on in Jeremy Bell, who has been making waves all spring long. If you haven't checked that video out, don't forget to check that out. I think you guys will enjoy what I have for you there. He's been a sleeper kind of guy. So definitely excited to see him in this setting. Zachariah Branch did a video on him a couple of weeks ago. Very excited about Zachariah Branch. I think this guy has the potential to be a game changer for Georgia at the slot position. But to me, it's got to be Colby Young. Like, I love Noah Thomas. I think Noah Thomas is going to be awesome, the transfer from A&M. But Colby Young is the guy that, going back to the coach's clinic, he was the guy that stood out to me the most at that position, followed by Zachariah Branch. Part of that is that he just knows the system better than a guy like Noah Thomas, and certainly the young guys like CJ and Landon Roldan and Talon Taylor, all those guys. He knows the system, but he's also a really talented guy. He did not really get a chance to put that on full display last year. A, because he was hurt coming out of fall camp and missed a lot of time. So The rapport with Carson Beck wasn't quite there to work himself back into a role. Started to do more of that as we got deeper in the season. Then as soon as he kind of starts to show us he can be that guy for us at receiver, well, we know the whole legal situation happened and he's out, right? But he's back. He's back in a big way. And I think we're loaded at receiver this year, guys. I think we took what was a deficiency last year and potentially turned that into the greatest strength on the Georgia offense. I think there's a strong argument to be made for that. We'll see once the season actually gets here. But on paper, it's looking pretty freaking good right now. But Colby Young is the guy that I'm most excited to watch at receiver because I think he's the closest to being that alpha guy in terms of just having the talent, the skill set, and also knowing the system. Like being prepared to step up right away week one and be that type of guy. So very, very excited to watch Colby Young along with a lot of other names at receiver as well. The offensive line, I feel good about the interior right now. Daniel Calhoun's, he's banged up. He's not going to be doing anything at G-Day. It'll be probably Michael Owini. And according to last week's reports, it looks like Juan Gasson, the big-time true freshman, was playing a lot of right tackle for us, now playing some right guard for us. Drew Bobo at center. You got Micah Morris at left guard. But all spring long, I've been telling you guys, like one of the biggest questions I've had about this team heading into spring practice was not the offensive line in general. I know a lot of people are concerned about the offensive line overall, and I get that. I get that, guys, especially the way the last year ended. But I feel pretty good about the options we have in the interior. We have some experience there. We have some highly talented young guys. I feel good about that position. What's far more concerning for me are the edges, the tackle position. We're not going to see Monroe Freeling at G-Day. He's been out all spring, coming back from a labrum surgery. So he's not going to be in the picture there. The one player that I'm going to be watching extraordinarily close in the offensive line is Ernest Green. Now, I'm going to own it, guys. I'll be real with you. I have probably been more critical of Ernest Green than maybe anybody that covers Georgia football, like openly critical of him. And I don't say it to pat myself in the back. I don't like being critical of our guys. I don't. I'd prefer to never have to criticize any of our guys. I would prefer that. But even go back to his redshirt freshman year, come with the back injury. Early in the year, I was like, yeah, man, like he's young, he's learning, but it's not a great look right now. This guy would just whiff on blocks. He wouldn't stick on blocks. Sometimes didn't know who to block. And he got better as his redshirt freshman year progressed, but I still had some questions going into what was really year 3 because year 1 was kind of a wash with the back surgery. But last year, a lot of the same issues, man. And then he got banged up and he got out of shape because of that. And it was just a bad look, man. We're talking about feet stuck in concrete, playing left tackle. He just could not handle any sort of speed rush whatsoever. I've always said I think he's more of a guard. I think he's playing out of position. But thank God we've moved him from left tackle. He's playing more right tackle now. But I still need to see it. Now that he's healthy, like by all accounts, he's healthy. He's got his weight back under control. Can you be a guy that we can trust at right tackle? Because I don't really trust him at left tackle. I'm going to be real. I don't trust him there. But right now, it's pretty clear that we are looking at him as our starting right tackle. And I want to feel a lot better about that because at the end of last year, it was the tackle position, both of them more than anything, that hurt the Georgia offensive line. The interior was banged up. Sure, we were fine on the interior. It was the edges. It was the edges that gave us issues. So I definitely want to see, is Ernest Green ready to take that next step? And is he playing, even though it's still not guard, which I think he's more of a natural fit for, is he a better fit at right tackle than left tackle? Can I trust him out there at right tackle in a way that I just honestly don't at left tackle? And of course, you want to see the young left tackles with Bo Hughley. He's not really a young guy, but getting his opportunity to really kind of make a name for himself and push for some playing time there. Jazar Jackson, a guy that I'm fascinated by with his athleticism, his size, athleticism combination, being like a semi-pro basketball player at left tackle. I continue to hear really positive things about him. So excited to see those guys as well. But Ernest Green's got to be the number one guy I'm watching on the offensive line. At tight end, this is another one that was tough to just pinpoint one guy because I'm excited to see a lot of these young guys. I'm really excited to see Jaden Riddell and where he is in year 2. I've heard a lot of really good things about him coming out of spring practice. I absolutely love Ethan Barbour, the freshman coming out of Milton High School. I think this guy's going to be a big-time player for Georgia, but he's a freshman, right? And then Elias Williams, we know freakish size, freakish athleticism combination, but where is he in his development? He did not play much inline tight end at all in high school. He's more of a receiver. So I'm certainly fascinated to watch all of those guys for sure. But to me, I err on the side of who is going to actually be the more impactful player for Georgia this year. And to me, it's going to be Lawson Lucky, all right? All those guys could certainly play a role in Georgia's offense, but it's not going to be a leading role in Georgia's offense. Jaden Riddell, if anything, will be the number 3 tight end. Ethan Barbour, if anything, will be the number 3 tight end. I think Elias Williams is probably more in line for like a situational role, maybe a red zone role, things like that. But Lawson Lucky going into year 3, let's not forget, Lawson Lucky as an early enrollee true freshman, he was the guy this time 2 years ago that was generating a lot of buzz as an early enrollee true freshman. And then going to fall camp, he was carrying that over, but then he got banged up in fall camp, missed the first couple of weeks, right? And so that set him back. But this is an incredibly talented football player. Last year was his first time playing like significant snaps for Georgia, like a real meaningful role for Georgia with Brock Bowers moving on. I love Oscar Delp too. Obviously, I love Oscar Delp, but Oscar's kind of filled more of that inline role. We throw him the football, yes, of course, but he's filled more of that inline role. Lucky's the guy that I'm looking at this year. He's not going to be Brock Bowers, okay? Like, we have to understand that. Brock Bowers is a freaking unicorn, okay? But he is going to be the guy, more than any of those tight ends, that's going to be playing the majority of the snaps in that Brock Bowers, like, mover hybrid tight end role. And he was good for us last year. Lawson was good for us last year. And I started to see him take some real strides as the season progressed. That catch he made on the sideline in the SEC title game in the second half, that Gunnar Stockton threw that rope on the sideline, that catch was absolutely ridiculous. That was a Brock Bowers-esque catch. That was what that was. But can he do that on a more consistent basis? Can he become more of a factor for us, more of a consistent factor and impact player in the passing game from that tight end position? So is Lawson Lucky ready to take that next step and become a truly impactful player for Georgia at tight end? So there you go, guys. Those are the players to watch on the offensive side of the football game. Got Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, Bo Walker at running back, Colby Young at receiver, Ernest Green at tackle, and Lawson Lucky at tight end. Now, flipping things over to the defensive side of the football, I'm going to start up front. We'll move our way back, and I'm going to break up the defensive front to a couple different positions here. I'm going to do nose guard. I'm going to do 3-tech, like 3-tech interior defensive tackle. I'm going to do 5-tech and outside linebacker, jack linebacker. It's not really a defensive lineman. We'll throw him up there in the front 7 as well. But at nose, the name to me is got to be Jordan Hall. Let's not forget what Jordan Hall was coming out of high school, guys. This dude was a big-time 5-star recruit, depending on what recruiting service you're looking at. You go watch him in some of his clips from the All-Star games. The dude was just mauling offensive linemen at All-Star games in those settings against the other best players in the country. This guy has legit first-round NFL draft potential. Unfortunately, though, we haven't quite seen that yet. He played in some spot duty as a true freshman. You saw some really nice flashes. Last year, we fully expected him to take on a bigger role in the Georgia defensive line, maybe potentially as our starting 3-tech. Certainly Warren Brinson dealing with injuries the first part of last year. But it was not to be, because Jordan Hall himself dealt with some very severe injuries. Just ridiculous luck. Stress fractures in both of his legs, guys. Just crazy stuff. So he was never really much of a factor. I think he played less than 20 snaps total on the year. And it was kind of just a wash for him last year. And I know it was tough for him. He's talked about that in press conferences, doing interviews. It was tough, man, for a guy that was as highly recruited as he was, has been as impactful as he has been at every step of his career, to not be playing, to not be practicing, and just be relegated to the sidelines. That's tough, man. That's tough on anybody's mental well-being. So it's nice to see him back healthy, fighting back. And I think year 3, I don't think it's a stretch to say this is a money year for Jordan Hall, because we know he could go pro after this year. Now, he might not, Honestly, I hope he has the kind of year that is good enough for him to actually go pro off that year. That'd be awesome for him. It'd be awesome for Georgia as well. But where is Jordan Hall in terms of his development? Because not only did he miss all those games last year, more importantly for me, he missed all those practice snaps, man. Those are developmental snaps for a young guy, all right? So how much has he been able to improve during the course of this spring? Because this is a guy that, again, I think the world of, physically speaking. I think he has the power. I think he has the athleticism to be a big-time, again, potential first-round type defensive tackle. And I think he has the versatility. He's got the athleticism to play 3-tech for us. He's got the size and power to play some nose for us at about 6'4", 320. Is he as big as Jordan Davis? No, of course not. But he's got the size. He's got the power to be able to hold up effectively at that nose position. Can also give us some pass rush at that position as well. So I'm very excited about Xavier McLeod. I think this guy's ceiling is sky high, and year 3 of his college career could be a year where Xavier McLeod breaks out as well. I'm excited to see some of the young guys. But Jordan Hall, for me, if you're talking about the nose guard position, like Nazir Johnson, excited to see him. Nnamdi Ogboko, excited to see him as well. Those young guys, second-year players coming into their second year, I think could absolutely play a role for Georgia at nose. But Jordan Hall, to me, is that guy, and I'm certainly excited to see where he is right now in that development. Defensive tackle, so we'll say 3-tech here. I mentioned Xavier McLeod. I think Xavier McLeod is going to be a stud for Georgia as early as this year. Christian Miller will probably be the starter at 3 tech if he's out for the spring. He's not practicing right now. What that's done is that's given these other guys like Xavier McLeod a lot more reps, a lot more opportunities, a lot more room to develop. So I'm excited to see a guy like that. But if there's a player I'm watching at the 3 tech, let's be real, guys, it's Elijah Griffin, the #1 defensive tackle in the country. I know he's a freshman. I know, guys, but I'm telling you, man, everything I've seen and heard about him to this point in the spring tells me this guy is the type of dude, the rare guy that is ready to make a legit impact in year 1 in the trenches in the SEC. Everything I said about Jordan Hall and Xavier McLeod, you can also apply to Elijah Griffin as well. A guy that has that combination of power and athleticism and also short area quickness. The twitch this guy has at the defensive tackle position is unreal, man. Like the closest, and I hate to put this comp on him because it's not fair. It's not fair, but I mean, Jalen Carter, guys, like, and if I'm trying to think of a guy like that played defensive tackle for Georgia that had anything close to the type of twitch that Elijah Griffin has, it's Jalen Carter. And I'm not saying Elijah Griffin's going to be Jalen Carter. Like, I can't say that right now. He hasn't played a snap for Georgia in any sort of meaningful situation. But in terms of just like comparing physical traits, he compares pretty closely to Jordan Davis. So that power, the strength in that punch, the athleticism, and that short area quickness, that twitch, again, in his lower half at that defensive tackle position in a bigger frame. You don't see it, man. It's rare. And I am very excited to see where he is going against the #1 offensive line at G-Day. So, yeah, definitely have my eyes on Elijah Griffin. I think he's going to help us this year, and I'd like to see where he is. Outside linebacker, we are thin, man. We are really thin. Gabe Harris, I think, is going to end up being the guy there for us, but he's not practicing. One of the many guys that will be an impact player for Georgia this year that's not going to be doing anything at G-Day. But the name there for me is Quintavious Johnson. He's the only guy with really any kind of experience in our system. Outside of him, we're relying on basically freshmen, with Gabe Harris not being a factor. And Quintavious is a young guy himself. He's only a redshirt freshman in his own right, but at least he's been in the system for a year. He was a guy, as fall camp wore on last year, started to really come on. He was a name I heard more and more about. I was impressed with what I saw from him at the practice I was able to go to last fall. But he's going to get a ton of snaps, man, an absolute ton of snaps. Because Isaiah Gibson, the big-time 5-star, top 10 recruit, it looks like he's not gonna be doing anything at G-Day because he's been out for the past week or two. So I don't anticipate him doing anything at G-Day. So what that's gonna mean is a lot more snaps for Quintavious Johnson, and we're gonna need him, guys. Even when Gabe Harris gets back healthy, that's a position where we don't just play one guy, right? Like we rotate that position quite often, and we play people there situationally. So Quintavious Johnson is going to have a role in Georgia defense, and I need to see, like, where are you right now in that development? Are you ready to be the type of impact pass rusher that we need? Because we're replacing a lot of production rushing the passer, guys. Our top 2 pass rushers with Chaz Chambliss and Jalen Walker, each having 6.5 sacks last year. Mike Williams, those guys are out the door. Damon Wilson Jr. out the door. We've got to find some legit pass rushers, and I think that Quintavious Johnson can be one of those guys. So I'm very excited to see him match up with the #1 offensive line, even though Monroe Fielding will be playing, still the #1 Georgia offensive line. One more position here on the defensive line, the 5 tech, another spot where we're losing a lot of production. Michael Williams, who played situationally at 5 tech and outside linebacker last year, he's gone. Going to be a first-round pick. Tyron Ingram-Dawkins, he somewhat surprisingly declared for the draft, and he seems to be moving up draft boards right now. He's gone. JJA, Joseph Jonah-John, that guy is going to be awesome for us, but he's still coming back from that foot injury. I do not anticipate him doing really anything at all at G-Day. So we're thin on bodies there as well. The name that I've heard a lot more about over the past couple of weeks is Justin Green, a redshirt freshman, Gwinnett County kid, Mountain View High School, I believe, is a guy that didn't really do much for Georgia last year, but he's a surefire 5 tech body, like 6'4", 275. And I like this guy coming out of high school, and I continue to hear really good things about him. So I want to see, like, is this a guy that can actually play real snaps for Georgia at the 5 tech defensive end position? All right, moving back to second level, inside linebacker. I did a video on the inside linebacker room as a whole earlier this week, so you can go check that out for a lot more information on the inside linebackers. But if I had to pick one, and we're loaded there, I do think you can make an argument that it's the most talented position, not just on this team, but in college football. There's an argument to be made. But Chris Cole has got to be the name I'm watching, guys. Like, of course, CJ Allen, like, he's awesome. He's going to be a starter for us. Raylan Wilson, I keep hearing good things about him and how he's progressed. Justin Williams seems like he's going to be eating into people's snaps. But Chris Cole, of those 4, I think Chris Cole might have the highest ceiling. I really, really do. I love his versatility. I'm excited. And I don't know how exotic we're going to get. It's one of those things when you talk about a spring scrimmage, how much do we show? I don't know. Probably not a lot. But I am interested to see how we use this guy. Will we use him on third downs in a way similar to how we use Jalen Walker as a situational pass rusher? Is he going to play more of like a true off-the-ball linebacker as an inside linebacker? I think the answer is yes to both of those. So I'm curious to see where he is on any given down. And also, one thing I want to see our inside linebackers improve on a lot this year is coverage. And I think Chris Cole, what I saw from him last year, he's a guy that can cover very well. I think better than Jalen Walker. Jalen wasn't. If Jalen had a deficiency last year, it was probably that. Justin Williams is a guy with his athleticism, is also really good in coverage. But Chris Cole, very excited to see how we use him and where he is in his development. Because I think this guy is going to be not just a big-time player for Georgia, but I think one of the better players, potentially one of the better defensive players in the entire SEC. I think that highly of this guy. At cornerback, no Dalen Everett. He's not been doing anything all spring long. He's been out there being a good leader, doing what he's got to do, but he's been banged up. One of the other guys, one of the other stars are going to be counting on that's banged up. But again, the silver lining is that it opens up reps and opportunities for other guys to kind of make a little bit of a move. And there's a number of guys that I'm watching here. There's really 3 names to watch because they're all kind of be battling for that cornerback position opposite Dalen Everett. You've got Daniel Harris, who was kind of that guy at the end of last year. You've got DeMello Jones, who I think is a sleeper guy that not enough people are talking about. But the name that I think catches the most attention and the name that I'm probably going to be watching most closely. I'll be watching all these guys, of course. But if I had to pick one of them, it's going to be Ellis Robinson IV, just based on his recruiting profile alone, guys. It's the number 2, not number 2 cornerback, number 2 overall prospect in the country coming out of high school last year. You don't find cornerbacks rated any higher than that. I mean, this guy, from an athleticism standpoint, a recruiting ranking standpoint, is the real deal. The issue for him last year was size. He's on the smaller side, wasn't as thick and as willing of a tackler as you would like our cornerbacks, because that's what Kirby demands, guys. You got to be able to hold up against the perimeter run game and the perimeter screen game, and he just wasn't quite there physically last year. When I saw him early this spring, he has put on some good weight, but I need to see it in that setting. When they throw some screens your way, and insert Mike Bobo joke right now. All right, go ahead and just get it out of your system. When they throw screens your way, when you have some runs coming your way off the edge, are you better equipped this year to step up and play with physicality on the perimeter and do what Kirby Smart demands that you be willing and able to do at that position? Because from a cover standpoint, I have literally 0 questions. I would argue he's probably the best cover guy on our team overall. But you've got to be able to do more than just that if you're going to play cornerback in Georgia's system. And that's really the only question I have about Ellis Robinson. Where is your physicality right now? If that question is answered to the affirmative, he probably will win that job. Probably. But that's still what we got to see. I got to see that. The coaches got to see that. And I think we'll get a better look at that when we get out there on Saturday. And then finally, guys, I'm going to put the safety and star position together. And I've said before, I'll say it again, I'll reiterate it here. I think the safety position, certainly on the defense, and maybe on the entire team as a whole, is probably the most wide open position battle out there. The cornerback position as well. I think those 2, cornerback and safety, are about as wide open of battles as you get. But right now, at safety, you got KJ Bolton. That's a done deal. He's starting. There's nothing intriguing about that. We know that. It's the other position, the other safety spot there. There's a lot of names back there. Man, Ja'Cory Thomas is the guy that I imagine will open the GDA scrimmage as the starter with the number 1 defensive unit. But this is where I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna give you a 3-for-1 special here. I kind of know what Ja'Cory Thomas is. I have a lot of faith in Ja'Cory Thomas. I think he could be the kind of guy like a Chris Smith, a Dan Jackson, late in his career, kind of get that opportunity and then step up. And he's been just putting his head down and working and improving and growing, developing. And when he gets his chance, he's gonna go out there and just ball. I think it can very well end up being the case. But I am curious to see all 3 of the transfers we brought in to play the safety/star position with Jaden Harris, who has starting experience at Miami from a year ago, Adrian Maddox, starting experience at UAB, and Zion Branch, who doesn't have a ton of starting experience at USC because he was banged up a lot, but has a lot of natural ability, a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism there. What does the pecking order look like with those 3? Because right now, I don't know. I really don't know. Out there at the first couple of practices with the coaches clinic, they were all like their heads were spinning. They're trying to learn the system. Like there wasn't much to kind of determine like who's ahead, who they were all kind of thrown out there at the same time. Corey Thomas, that was doing most of the work with the number 1 defense. So as we've gotten like a couple more weeks into spring practice, have a couple of these guys emerged as a little bit ahead of the other two? I don't know. I'm very, very curious to find out. Jaden Harrison has more starting experience at the power 4 now level, so he'd be the guy if I had to guess might be that guy. And he was a late switch to the safety position in his career. So he's still kind of learning that position. So if I had to guess, I would say more Jaden Harris, but Maddox has experience at UAB. Zion Branch, again, very, very talented guy. So how have these guys adapted? How have they adjusted? Are any of them ready to actually push a guy like Corey Thomas? Are any of them ready to push a guy like Janelle Aguero, who's having a great spring himself at the star position? I think we'll start to get a better look at that here on Saturday when we get to G-Day. But all right, guys, there you go. That is every single position on the roster, a player to watch at every one of those spots. So hope you guys have a chance to make it out there to G-Day. If not, it's all good, guys. Make sure to come back here. I'll have you guys 100% covered with a full recap of everything I saw at G-Day. It'll be our annual G-Day overreaction episode. So make sure, if you haven't already, again, subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss that. You get notifications when that video goes live. So check that out. Subscribe, like, comment, all that. Check out the Glory UGA podcast for a whole lot more coverage of Georgia football. For now, guys, that's all I got for you. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.